Chapter 1. She'd been running for 3 years. Tonight, they finally found her. The hut sat at the edge of nothing, no roads, no lights, no witnesses. Just trees pressing in from all sides and a sky so dark it swallowed the stars. Mira Castello pressed her spine against the splintered door and forced her lungs to work. 3 more hours. She just needed 3 more hours until the wolfsbane killed her scent completely. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She clenched them into fists until her nails bit crescents into her palms. The pain helped. Pain always helped. It reminded her she was still alive, still moving, still one step ahead of the wolf who'd spent 3 years hunting her like prey. The hut smelled of rot and abandonment. Perfect. She dropped her pack beside the door. Everything she owned fit in one bag now. Fake IDs, cash she'd stolen from supply depots, wolfsbane extract that burned going down and left her weak for days. And buried at the bottom, wrapped in cloth that still smelled faintly of smoke and blood, her mother's necklace. The only thing she'd grabbed, the night fire consumed her world. Mira pulled it out now, let the silver chain pool in her palm. The pendant was warm. It was always warm, like it held some echo of the woman who'd worn it. Luna's mark, her mother had called it. Protection. Legacy. Power. It hadn't protected anyone. "I made it, Mama," Mira whispered to the empty room. "I'm still alive." The words felt hollow. Being alive wasn't the same as living. She'd learned that distinction somewhere between the 2nd year of running and the 3rd. Between the cities where she'd hidden in basements and the wilderness where she'd learned to move without leaving tracks. Between the girl she'd been at 20 and whatever she was now, a survivor. That's what she told herself on the nights when guilt tried to drown her. A coward. That's what the voice in her head whispered back. She shoved the necklace back into her pack and moved deeper into the hut. 1 room, barely standing. A rusted stove in the corner that probably didn't work. A cot with a mattress that smelled like mildew. A window so grimy she could barely see the forest beyond. It was perfect. No one would look for her here. This was neutral territory, the dead space between pack lands where rogues came to die and no alpha bothered to patrol. She could rest here, heal the blisters on her feet and the ache in her ribs from 3 days of hard running. Maybe even sleep without dreaming of her father's blood on stone. Mira wedged a broken chair under the door handle. Flimsy security, but it would make noise if someone tried to get in. She crossed to the window, tested the frame. Stuck shut, but she could break through if she had to. Always have an exit. That was rule number 1. Rule number 2. Trust no one. Rule number 3. Keep moving. Except tonight. Tonight she'd break rule 3 because her body was breaking down and the wolfsbane in her system was doing more damage than her wolf could heal. One night. She'd rest one night, then disappear before dawn. She sank onto the cot. Springs groaned beneath her weight. Her boots were caked in mud and her jeans were torn at both knees. Her hair hung in tangled ropes down her back. When had she last washed it? A week? 2? Time blurred when you were running. Days bled into nights, bled into the endless gray space between fear and exhaustion. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin. Finally. The damn thing had been silent for days. Suppressed by the wolfsbane she'd been choking down to hide her scent, but now it pressed against her consciousness, restless and aching. Tired, it whimpered. So tired. "I know," Mira murmured. "Just a little longer. Can't run forever. Watch me." But her wolf was right. She couldn't run forever. Eventually, Victor Russo would corner her. Eventually, her luck would run out. Eventually, a sound cut through the silence. Footsteps. Mira's pulse spiked. Her breath caught in her throat. No, not possible. She'd covered her tracks, used 3 different rivers. The wolfsbane should have killed her scent. The footsteps stopped. Right outside the door, her wolf surged forward, clawing at her control. Every instinct screamed run, but there was nowhere to go. The window was stuck. The walls were too thin to provide cover. If someone wanted in, they'd get in. Silence stretched. Heavy. Suffocating. Then 3 slow, deliberate knocks against the wood. Mira's heart slammed against her ribs. Who knocks in the middle of nowhere? Hunters broke down doors. Rogues didn't bother with courtesy, which meant her wolf went very, very still. Then it started whining. A desperate, confused sound that made her chest ache. No. Oh no. A scent penetrated through the cracks in the door. pine and night air and something wild that made her think of hunting under a full moon. It wrapped around her, sank into her lungs, made her head spin and her knees threaten to buckle. Her wolf surged. Mate. No, Mira whispered. Not now, not them. But her body wasn't listening. Her body was responding to something biological and undeniable. Something that 3 years of running and a gallon of wolfsbane couldn't suppress. Another knock. Louder this time. Patient. Mira forced herself to move. Her legs felt like water. Her hands were shaking worse than before. She crossed to the door, pressed her palm flat against the wood. Who's there? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. No answer. Just another knock. This was a mistake. She should run. Should break through that window and disappear into the trees and forget she'd ever smelled pine and night air and mate. But her hand was already on the chair, already pulling it away from the door, already reaching for the handle. Her wolf whispered, "Safe. Pack. Home." Her mind screamed, "Trap." She pulled the door open and froze. 2 men stood on the other side. Tall, broad-shouldered, identical in every way that mattered. Sharp jawlines that could cut glass. Dark hair that fell just past their ears, still damp from rain she hadn't heard start. Eyes the color of storm clouds, silver gray and intense, and fixed on her with a focus that made her skin prickle. They wore simple clothes. Dark jeans, fitted shirts that clung to muscled frames. But there was nothing simple about the way they stood. Like they owned the ground beneath their feet. Like they owned the air. Like they owned everything. Alphas. She knew it before they said a word. The air around them was thick with it. That unmistakable weight that made her wolf want to bare its throat and her human mind want to run screaming. But it was more than that. It was them. Something about them specifically that made her chest ache and her breath catch, and her entire body lean forward even as her mind screamed to step back. The scent hit her next. Stronger now without the door between them. Pine and smoke and something darker underneath. Something that made her wolf whine and press and beg. Hours, hours, hours. The one on the left tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made her feel exposed. Stripped bare. His gaze dragged over her face, her throat, her trembling hands still gripping the doorframe. "You're a long way from home," he said. His voice was low, rough around the edges like he hadn't spoken in days. Mira's fingers tightened on the wood. "I don't have a home," the one on the right smiled. It wasn't kind. "You do now." Her stomach dropped. "I don't know who you think I am, but you've got the wrong person." "No." The first one took a step forward. "We don't." Mira stepped back. Her wolf howled in protest. "Stay away from me. Can't do that." His eyes never left hers. "I didn't run for 3 years to be caught by." "You didn't run from us," the second one interrupted. He moved closer, flanking her, cutting off her escape routes. Mira's pulse roared in her ears. Her wolf was clawing at her control now, desperate and confused and wanting in a way that terrified her. "I'm not anyone's," she whispered. The first alpha's expression softened. Just barely. Just enough to make her chest crack open. "You will be," he said quietly. And then he smiled. Not cruel, not cold, gentle, like he already knew her answer. Like he'd been waiting his whole life to knock on this door. Mira's breath shattered because deep down, beneath the fear and the fury and the fight, her wolf whispered back. Yes, the word echoed in her chest. Louder than her heartbeat. Louder than the wind scraping through the trees outside. Louder than 3 years of running. Yes, she hated it. Hated that her wolf had answered before she could stop it. Hated the way her body leaned forward, closing the distance without permission. Hated the way they knew. The way they both watched her with something like recognition. Like relief. "You felt it," the first alpha said softly. It wasn't a question. Mira's throat tightened. She forced herself to take another step back, but the hut was small. Too small. The wall pressed against her spine, cold and unyielding. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." The second alpha moved then. Slow and deliberate, stepping inside the hut like he'd been invited. The door swung wider behind him. Pale light from outside framed them both, casting long shadows across the rotting floor. Mira's breath came faster. "You need to leave." "We will," the second one said. His voice was smoother than his companion's, but no less certain. When you come with us. I'm not going anywhere. You can't stay here. The first alpha gestured around the hut, his expression almost pitying. No heat, no food, no pack. You'll be dead in a week. That's my choice. Not anymore. The air between them thickened. Mira's hands curled into fists at her sides. Her nails bit into her palms, grounding her. She needed the pain. Needed something to cut through the fog of mate bond instinct trying to drag her under. You don't get to decide that, she said. We already did. The second alpha tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle he was halfway to solving. The moment you crossed into our territory, her stomach dropped. This isn't Packland. It is now. The first alpha took another step forward. Close enough now that she could see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes. Close enough that his scent wrapped around her like a second skin. Pine. Smoke. Something darker underneath that made her wolf surge and whine. No. Not them. Anyone but them. We've been looking for you, he said quietly. Mara's breath hitched. You don't even know me. We know enough. You know nothing. His gaze softened. Just barely. Just enough to make her chest tighten with something she couldn't name. We know you ran, he said. We know you're scared. We know you think you're safer alone. I am safer alone. You're not. The second alpha's voice cut through the space between them, sharp and final. And you know it. She wanted to argue, wanted to scream at them to get out, to leave her alone, to let her disappear into the woods and never look back. But the words stuck in her throat because he was right. She wasn't safe. Not really. Not out here with no pack, no bond, no one to call if the cold got too deep or Victor's wolves got too close. Not back there either. Not in the place she'd run from, where they'd tried to tie her to an alpha she didn't choose, didn't want, didn't love. Nowhere was safe, except her wolf whispered it again, softer this time, them. Mira's knees threatened to buckle. Why me? The question slipped out before she could stop it. There are other Omegas, stronger ones who actually want this. The first alpha's expression shifted. Something raw flickered across his face, gone before she could name it. Because you're ours, he said simply. The second alpha nodded. We've known since the first time we caught your scent. Her heart slammed against her ribs. That's impossible. I've never... 3 weeks ago, the first one interrupted. You passed through Silver Creek territory. You stopped at the supply depot on the edge of town. Mara's breath caught. She had stopped there, just for an hour. Just long enough to buy wolfsbane and antibiotics before she kept moving. You didn't talk to anyone. The second alpha continued, his voice low and steady. Didn't look at anyone. But we were there. And the second you walked in, the first one said, we knew. The room tilted. Mira pressed her palms flat against the wall behind her, trying to steady herself. That's not how it works, she whispered. It is for us. The second alpha stepped closer. Close enough now that she could feel the heat radiating off him. Close enough that her wolf whined, desperate and confused. We're twins, he said. Same pack, same bloodline, same bond. Which means, the first one added, we share everything. The weight of those words settled over her like a stone. Share. Her pulse roared in her ears. No. She shook her head hard. No. I didn't run from one alpha just to end up with two. You didn't run from an alpha, the first one said gently. You ran from a bond you didn't choose. This is the same thing. It's not. How? Her voice cracked. How is this any different? The second alpha reached out. Slow and careful, like he was afraid she'd bolt. His fingers brushed her wrist. Just barely. Just enough to send a shiver racing up her arm. Because we're not asking you to submit, he said quietly. The first alpha's gaze locked onto hers. We're asking you to stay. Mira's breath shattered. The touch at her wrist burned. Not painful. Not unwelcome. Right. And that was the problem. Her wolf surged forward, clawing at her control, begging her to lean in, to let them closer. To stop fighting something that felt like gravity. But she couldn't. She couldn't. I don't even know your names, she whispered. The first alpha smiled. Soft. Real. Kai, he said. The second one's thumb traced a slow circle against the inside of her wrist. Kieran? The names settled into her chest like they'd always belonged there. Mira closed her eyes. This is a mistake. This is dangerous. Stay, Kai said again. His voice was barely more than a breath. Just for tonight, let us prove you're wrong. She should say no. Should push them away, lock the door, disappear into the trees before they could follow. But when she opened her eyes, all she saw was them. Waiting. Not demanding. Not commanding. Just waiting. And for the first time in 3 years, she didn't want to run. Her fingers twitched. Not toward them. Not away. Just suspended. Caught between the urge to shove them back and the terrifying pull to let them stay. Kieran's thumb was still tracing that slow, maddening circle against her wrist. Kai's eyes hadn't left hers. The silence stretched, heavy with something she didn't have words for. One night, she heard herself say. The words felt like surrender. Kai's expression didn't change, but something in his posture eased, just slightly, like he'd been holding his breath and finally let it go. One night, he agreed. Kieran's hand slipped away from her wrist. The absence of his touch felt like cold water. Mira exhaled, trying to steady herself. She didn't know if she'd just made the smartest decision of her life or the worst. Kai stepped back, giving her space. Kieran did the same. They moved in sync, like they'd done this 1,000 times before, like they didn't need words to know what the other was thinking. It should have been comforting. It wasn't. Mira pressed her palms flat against the wall behind her, grounding herself. Her wolf was still restless, pacing beneath her skin, whining softly. Ours, it whispered. Stay. 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 She shoved the voice down. You can't both stay here, she said, forcing her voice steady. There's barely room for one person. Kai glanced around the hut. His gaze swept over the sagging cot, the broken table, the rusted stove. His jaw tightened. You've been living like this? I've been surviving. That's not the same thing. It's close enough. Kieran crossed his arms, leaning against the doorframe. His eyes were softer than his brother's, but no less intense. We're not leaving you here alone, he said. I've been alone for 3 days. I'm fine. You're not fine. Kai's voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it. You're exhausted. You're hungry. And you're one bad storm away from freezing to death. Mira's jaw clenched. I didn't ask for your opinion. You didn't have to. She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him he was wrong. That she didn't need anyone. That she'd been taking care of herself long before they showed up. But the words felt hollow. Because he wasn't wrong. She was exhausted. She was hungry. And the hut was cold, even now, with the door still open and the wind slipping through the cracks in the walls. Kieran pushed off the doorframe and stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough that she could see the concern etched into his features. Let us help, he said. I don't need help. Everyone needs help. Not me. Kai's gaze sharpened. Why? The question caught her off guard. What? Why don't you need help? He took a step forward, slow and deliberate. What happened to you? Mira's breath hitched. She didn't answer. Couldn't. Because if she started talking, she didn't know if she'd be able to stop. Kai's expression softened. You don't have to tell us. Not yet. But we're not going anywhere. You said one night. We did. Kieran's voice was steady. And we meant it. But that doesn't mean we're leaving you alone tonight. Mira's pulse spiked. You can't just... We can, Kai interrupted. And we will. The certainty in his voice made her chest tighten. She hated it. Hated how easily they slipped past her defenses. Hated how her wolf purred under their attention. Hated how a part of her small, buried, desperate wanted them to stay. Fine, she said. The word came out sharp, clipped. But you sleep outside. Kieran raised an eyebrow. Outside? There's a porch. You'll survive. Kai's lips twitched. Almost a smile. You're serious? Completely. He exchanged a glance with Kieran. Something passed between them, silent and swift. Then Kieran shrugged. All right, Mira blinked. All right? You want us outside? Kieran said. We'll stay outside. Kai's gaze held hers. But we're not leaving. She didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process the fact that they'd agreed so easily, that they weren't pushing, weren't demanding, just accepting. It felt wrong. Alphas didn't accept. They commanded. They took. They expected submission and obedience and silence. But Kai and Kieran weren't doing any of that, and it terrified her. I'll get a fire going, Kai said. breaking the silence. He moved toward the stove, crouching down to inspect it. This thing still work? Mira's throat felt tight. I don't know. I haven't tried. Kieran stepped past her, heading for the corner where a small stack of wood sat, damp and splintered. He picked up a few pieces, testing their weight. We'll make it work, he said. Mira watched them move. Efficient. Practiced. Like they'd done this 100 times before. Like they belonged here. Like she belonged here. Her chest ached. She turned away, crossing to the window. The trees outside were dark, their branches swaying in the wind. The sky was bruised with twilight, the last traces of daylight bleeding into shadow. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass. What am I doing? Why did I let them stay? Why does it feel like I've been waiting for them my whole life? Behind her, she heard the scrape of metal, the soft crackle of kindling catching fire. Warmth began to seep into the room, slow and steady. Mira. She stiffened. Kai's voice was close. Too close. She didn't turn around. What? You don't have to be afraid of us. Her throat tightened. I'm not afraid. Yes, you are. She closed her eyes. You don't know me. Not yet. His voice was soft, gentle. But we will. The certainty in his words made her chest crack open. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that this, whatever this was, could be different. That they could be different. But she'd believed before. And it had nearly destroyed her. I can't do this, she whispered. You don't have to do anything. Kieran's voice came from the other side of the room, steady and sure. Just let us stay. That's all we're asking. Mira's hands curled into fists against the windowsill. Just let us stay. It sounded so simple. It felt impossible. But when she finally turned around, they were both watching her. Not with hunger. Not with possession. With something softer. Something that looked almost like hope. And despite everything, despite the fear, despite the scars, despite the voice in her head screaming at her to run, she nodded. One night, she said again. Kai's smile was small, real. One night, Kieran moved toward the door, pausing in the threshold. He glanced back at her, his expression unreadable. We'll be right outside, he said. If you need us. Mira didn't answer. She watched them step onto the porch, watched the door close behind them, watched the firelight flicker against the walls, and for the first time in 3 days, she didn't feel alone. She felt seen, and that was so much worse. Chapter 2. She stood there, staring at the closed door. The fire crackled behind her. Warmth spread through the cabin, chasing away the chill that had settled into her bones over the past 3 days, but it didn't touch the cold in her chest. Mira turned away from the door and moved toward the cot. Her legs felt heavy. Her whole body felt heavy, like she'd been carrying a weight she didn't know how to set down. She sank onto the thin mattress and pulled her knees to her chest. Outside, she could hear them. Low voices, murmured words she couldn't quite make out. The creak of wood as they settled onto the porch. They were close. Too close. Her wolf stirred, restless and aching. Go to them. No. They're waiting. I don't care. But she did. That was the problem. She cared too much. Felt too much. Wanted too much. And wanting had only ever hurt her. Mira pressed her forehead against her knees and closed her eyes. She didn't know how long she sat there. The fire burned low. The warmth faded. The voices outside went quiet, but she could still feel them. Like a pulse beneath her skin. Like a thread pulled taut between her ribs and the door. She hated it. Hated how aware she was of them. How her body leaned toward the door even when she told it not to. How her wolf whined every time the wind shifted and carried their scent through the cracks in the walls. Pine. Smoke. Something wild and warm in theirs. Her breath hitched. Stop. Stop thinking about them. Stop. A sound cut through the silence. Soft. Deliberate. A knock. Mira's head snapped up. Her pulse spiked. Mira. Kai's voice. Low. Careful. You still awake? She didn't answer. Didn't move. I know you are, he continued. I can hear your heartbeat. Her chest tightened. Of course he could. Alphas always could. She rose to her feet, slow and reluctant, and crossed to the door. Her hand hovered over the handle. What do you want? To make sure you're all right. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. Mira's jaw clenched. I said I'm fine. Silence. Then, Open the door. It wasn't a command. Not quite. But there was something in his voice that made her fingers curl around the handle before she could stop herself. She pulled the door open. Kai stood on the other side, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Behind him, Kieran leaned against the porch railing, his gaze fixed on the trees beyond. Firelight from inside spilled across Kai's face, casting shadows along his jaw. "What?" Mira said, sharper than she meant to. Kai's gaze softened. "You're shaking." She glanced down. He was right. Her hands were trembling. Her whole body was trembling. She hadn't even noticed. "I'm cold," she said. "The fire's still going. It's not enough." Kai's jaw tightened. He glanced over his shoulder at Kieran, who straightened and turned toward them. "Let us in," Kieran said. Mara's breath caught. "No. You're freezing," Kai said. "And that fire's going to die in an hour. You won't make it through the night. I'll be fine." "You won't. I've survived worse." Kai's expression shifted. Something raw flickered across his face, gone before she could name it. "You shouldn't have to," he said quietly. The words hit her like a fist. She didn't know what to say, didn't know how to respond to the gentleness in his voice, the concern in his eyes. It felt wrong. Alphas weren't gentle. They weren't concerned. They were demanding, possessive, cruel. But Kai wasn't any of those things, and it terrified her. "Please," Kieran said, stepping closer. "Just let us help." Mira's throat tightened. She wanted to say no, wanted to slam the door and lock it and pretend they weren't there. But her body was shaking so hard her teeth were starting to chatter. And the fire was dying. And she was so tired. "Fine," she whispered. Kai's shoulders eased. Kieran moved first, stepping past her into the cabin. Kai followed, his gaze never leaving hers. The door closed behind them. The space felt smaller now. Too small. The walls pressed in. The air thick with their scent. Mara backed toward the cot, her arms wrapped around herself. "You don't have to be afraid," Kai said again. "I'm not afraid." "Then why are you shaking?" "I told you. I'm cold." Kieran crouched by the stove, feeding more wood into the fire. The flames caught, crackling and hissing, casting flickering light across the walls. Kai moved toward her, slow, careful, like he was approaching a wounded animal. "Sit," he said. Mira didn't move. "Mira, I'm fine standing." "You're not fine." His voice was firm now. Not harsh, just certain. "Sit down before you fall down." Her legs gave out before she could argue. She sank onto the cot, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. Kai knelt in front of her, his hands hovering near her knees. Not touching. Just there. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked. Mira's throat felt tight. "I don't know." "When's the last time you slept?" "I don't." She stopped, swallowed. "I don't remember." Kai's jaw tightened. He glanced over his shoulder at Kieran, who was already pulling something from his jacket. A wrapped bundle. Bread, dried meat, an apple. Kieran crossed the room and held it out to her. "Eat," he said. Mara stared at the food, her stomach twisted. She couldn't remember the last time someone had offered her something without expecting something in return. "I'm not hungry," she lied. Kieran's expression didn't change. "Eat anyway. I don't—" "Mira." Kai's voice was soft. Too soft. "Please." The word broke something inside her. She took the bundle with trembling hands and unwrapped it. The bread was still warm. The meat smelled like smoke and salt. Her mouth watered. She took a bite. Then another. Then she couldn't stop. She ate until the bundle was empty, until her stomach ached, until the trembling in her hands finally eased. Kai watched her the whole time. So did Kieran. Not with judgment, not with pity, just watching. When she finished, she set the empty cloth aside and wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Kai's expression softened. "You don't have to thank us." "I do." "You don't." Kieran moved closer, settling onto the floor beside the cot. "You don't owe us anything." Mira's chest tightened. She didn't believe him. Everyone wanted something. Everyone expected something. But when she looked at them, at the way Kai's gaze held hers, at the way Kieran's posture was relaxed and open, she almost believed it. Almost. "You should sleep," Kai said. "I'm fine." "You're exhausted." I said, "I'm fine." Kai's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He just rose to his feet and moved toward the door. Mira's chest clenched. He's leaving. Good. That's what you wanted. But her wolf whined, desperate and aching. Don't go. Kai paused in the doorway. He glanced back at her, his expression unreadable. We'll be right outside, he said. Kieran stood, brushing off his jeans. He met her gaze, his eyes soft. If you need us, he said, just call. Mira didn't answer. She watched them step onto the porch, watched the door close behind them, and then she was alone again. But the warmth lingered. The scent lingered. The ache in her chest lingered. She lay down on the cot and pulled the thin blanket over herself. The fire crackled. The wind whispered through the trees, and outside, just beyond the door, she could hear them breathing, waiting, staying. Her wolf settled, finally quiet. And for the first time in weeks, Mira felt safe. She hated it, but she didn't want it to stop. She closed her eyes, but sleep didn't come. The warmth from the fire wrapped around her, but it wasn't enough to quiet the storm in her chest. Her wolf had settled, yes, but Mira hadn't. She could still feel them, just beyond the door, close enough to hear, close enough to reach, close enough to hurt her. Her fingers curled into the blanket. Why did I let them stay? Why does it feel like this? Why do they make me want things I can't have? She turned onto her side, facing the wall. The wood was rough and splintered, gaps letting in slivers of cold air. She focused on the chill, on the discomfort, on anything but the ache in her chest. But it didn't work, because she could still hear them breathing, and her wolf wouldn't stop whispering. Safe. 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 Mira's throat tightened. She wasn't safe. She'd never been safe. Not in her old pack. Not with the alpha they'd tried to bind her to. Not even here, in the middle of nowhere, where no one was supposed to find her. But they had, and now she didn't know what to do. A sound broke through the silence. Soft, deliberate, footsteps on the porch. Mira's eyes snapped open. Her pulse spiked. The door creaked. She sat up, her heart hammering against her ribs. Mira, Kieran's voice. Low, careful. She didn't answer. The door opened wider. Firelight spilled across his face, casting shadows along his jaw. His eyes found hers in the dim light. You're not sleeping, he said. I'm fine. You keep saying that. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. But I don't think you believe it. Mira's hands tightened on the blanket. What do you want? To talk. I don't want to talk. I know. He moved closer, slow and deliberate, and settled onto the floor beside the cot. Not touching. Just there. But I think you need to. Her chest tightened. She looked away. You don't know what I need. Maybe not. His gaze held hers, steady and sure. But I know what it looks like when someone's running from something they can't outrun. The words hit her like a fist. She looked away, staring at the fire. I'm not running. Yes, you are. You don't know me. Not yet, he said quietly. But I want to. Mira's throat felt tight. She pressed her lips together, trying to hold back the words clawing at her chest, but they came anyway. Why? Her voice cracked. Why do you care? Kieran's expression softened. Because you're ours. Stop saying that. It's the truth. It's not. She shook her head hard. You don't even know me. You don't know what I've done. She stopped. Swallowed. Kieran didn't push. He just waited. And that was worse. Because waiting meant he expected her to keep talking. Expected her to open up. Expected her to trust him. And she didn't know how. I ran, she whispered finally. From my pack. From an alpha who thought he owned me. Kieran's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. They said it was an honor, she continued, her voice barely more than a breath. Being chosen by him. They said I should be grateful. That every Omega dreams of being claimed by someone strong. Her hands curled into fists. But I didn't want him. I didn't want any of it. And when I said no, she stopped. Her chest ached. What did they do? Kieran's voice was low. Dangerous. Mira's breath hitched. They told me I didn't have a choice. That the bond was already decided. That I was his whether I wanted to be or not. Kieran's hands curled into fists against his knees. So I ran, she said. In the middle of the night. I didn't take anything. Didn't say goodbye. I just Left. Silence stretched between them. Then, he didn't deserve you, Kieran said quietly. Mira's throat tightened. You don't know that. Yes, I do. His gaze locked onto hers. Because anyone who tries to force a bond doesn't deserve anything. The certainty in his voice made her chest crack open. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that what happened to her was wrong. That she wasn't broken for running. That she wasn't weak for refusing. But she'd heard the whispers. Ungrateful. Selfish. Broken. They said I was damaged. She whispered. That no alpha would ever want me after what I did. Kieran's expression darkened. They were wrong. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He leaned closer, his voice steady and sure. Because we want you. And we're not going anywhere. Mira's breath shattered. She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him he was wrong. That he didn't understand. That wanting her was a mistake. But the words stuck in her throat. Because when she looked at him, at the way his gaze held hers, at the way his posture was open and steady, she almost believed him. Almost. The door creaked again. Kai stepped inside, his gaze sweeping over the room before landing on her. You told him, he said. It wasn't a question. Mira's chest tightened. How did you... I could hear your heartbeat. He moved closer, settling onto the floor beside Kieran. It's been racing since we got here. She didn't know what to say to that. Kai's gaze softened. What happened to you wasn't your fault. You don't know what happened, Kieran told me. His jaw tightened. And it wasn't your fault. Mira's hands trembled. I ran. I broke pack law. You survived, Kai interrupted. That's all that matters. It's not that simple. It is. Kieran's voice was firm. You didn't owe him anything. You don't owe anyone anything. Mira's throat felt tight. She wanted to believe them. Wanted to believe that running didn't make her weak. That refusing didn't make her broken. But the scars ran too deep. He said I was his. She whispered. That I'd always be his. That no matter how far I ran, he'd find me. Kai's expression darkened. He won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. His gaze locked onto hers. Because if he comes for you, he'll have to go through us first. The words settled into her chest like a vow. Mira's breath hitched. Why? She asked again. Why do you care so much? Kai's expression softened. Because you're ours. Stop. Because the moment we caught your scent, Kieran continued, we knew. We knew you were the one we'd been waiting for. Mira's chest ached. I don't understand. You don't have to, Kai said gently. Not yet. But you will. She didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to process the certainty in their voices, the steadiness in their gazes. It felt impossible. It felt real. And that terrified her. Chapter 3. I can't do this, she whispered. You don't have to do anything, Kieran said. Just let us stay. That's all we're asking. But what if... She stopped, swallowed. What if I can't be what you want? Kai's gaze held hers. You already are. The words broke something inside her. She didn't realize she was crying until Kieran reached up and brushed a tear from her cheek. His touch was gentle, careful, like she was something precious. You don't have to be afraid, he said softly. I don't know how not to be. Then let us show you. Mira's breath shattered. She wanted to pull away, wanted to tell them to leave, wanted to lock the door and disappear into the woods and never look back. But she didn't, because for the first time in 3 years, she didn't want to be alone. She wanted to be seen. She wanted to be safe. She wanted them. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. Kai rose to his feet and held out his hand. Come here, he said. Mira stared at his hand. Her wolf surged forward, desperate and aching. Yes. Go. Trust. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers. Warm. Steady. Real. He pulled her to her feet, slow and careful, and guided her toward the fire. Kieran moved beside her, his presence solid and grounding. They settled onto the floor, the 3 of them, close enough that their shoulders brushed. The fire crackled, the warmth wrapped around them. And for the first time in weeks, Mira let herself breathe, let herself feel, let herself hope, even if it hurt. Even if it was dangerous. Even if it broke her. Because maybe, just maybe, they could put her back together. The fire cast dancing shadows across their faces. Mira sat between them, her knees pulled to her chest, her arms wrapped around herself. The warmth seeped into her skin, but it was their presence, solid and steady on either side, that made her feel less like she was falling apart. Kai's shoulder pressed against hers. Kieran's hand rested on the floor beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his skin. She didn't pull away. For the first time, she didn't want to. "Tell us about you," Kieran said quietly. Mira's breath hitched. "There's nothing to tell. I don't believe that. It's true." She stared into the flames. "I'm nobody, just an Omega who ran." "You're not nobody," Kai said. His voice was firm. "Certain. You're brave." Mira's throat tightened. "I'm not brave. I'm a coward." "No." Kieran shifted closer, his gaze steady on her. "A coward would have stayed, would have let them break her. You didn't." "I ran." "You survived," Kai corrected. "There's a difference." Mira's chest ached. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that running didn't make her weak, that refusing didn't make her broken, but the scars ran too deep. "What was your pack like?" Kieran asked. Before, Mira's hands tightened around her knees. Small, isolated. Everyone knew everyone. There were rules, expectations. "And you didn't fit," Kai said. It wasn't a question. Mira's lips pressed together. "Why not?" She hesitated. The words felt heavy, dangerous. But when she looked at them, at the way they watched her, patient and open, she couldn't hold them back. "Because I asked questions," she said quietly. "Because I didn't just accept things the way they were. Because I wanted more than what they told me I could have." Kieran's expression softened. "What did you want?" Mira's breath shuddered. "I wanted to choose. I wanted my life to be mine. I wanted—" She stopped, swallowed. "I wanted to matter," she whispered. "Not because of what I was, but because of who I was." The silence that followed felt like a held breath. Then Kai spoke, his voice low and rough. "You matter." Mira's chest cracked open. "You don't know me. We're learning." Kieran's hand shifted, his fingers brushing against hers. Just barely, just enough to send a shiver racing up her arm. "And everything we learn makes us want to know more." Mira's pulse stuttered. She looked down at their hands. His fingers were so close to hers, close enough to touch, close enough to hold. She didn't pull away. "What about you?" she asked, her voice barely more than a breath. "What's your pack like?" Kai and Kieran exchanged a glance. Something passed between them. Silent, swift, complicated, Kai said finally. Mira's brow furrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means we're alphas," Kieran said. "But we're also twins. And in our world, that's rare." "Rare how?" Kai's jaw tightened. "Most packs don't know what to do with twin alphas. They see it as a threat, a challenge to the hierarchy. So they tried to separate us," Kieran continued. "Tried to make us compete. Tried to break the bond between us." Mira's chest tightened. "Did it work?" "No." Kai's voice was firm. "Final. We're stronger together. We always have been." "Which is why," Kieran said, his gaze locking onto hers, "we share everything." The weight of those words settled over her like a stone. "Share." Mira's breath hitched. "Including me," she whispered. "Only if you want to be shared," Kai said gently. "We're not asking you to submit. We're not asking you to give up who you are." "Then what are you asking?" Kieran's fingers curled around hers. Slow, careful. "We're asking you to let us in," he said. Mira's throat felt tight. She stared at their joined hands. His touch was warm, steady, real, and it terrified her. "I don't know how," she whispered. "You don't have to know," Kai said. "Just let us show you." Mira's breath shattered. She wanted to pull away, wanted to tell them it was too much, too fast, too dangerous, but she didn't. Because when she looked at them, at the way Kai's gaze held hers, at the way Kieran's thumb traced slow circles against her palm, she didn't feel trapped. She felt wanted, and that was something she'd never felt before. "I'm scared," she admitted. "We know," Kieran said softly. "But you don't have to be," Kai added. "Not with us." Mira's chest ached. She wanted to believe them, wanted to believe that this, whatever this was, could be different. But she'd believed before, and it had nearly destroyed her. "What if I can't do this?" she whispered. "What if I'm too broken?" Kai's expression softened. He reached up, slow and careful, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle, reverent, like she was something precious. "You're not broken," he said quietly. You're healing. Mira's breath hitched. And we'll be here, Kieran said, his hand tightening around hers. Every step of the way. The words settled into her chest like a vow. Mira's eyes burned. She didn't realize she was crying until Kai's thumb brushed away a tear. You don't have to cry, he murmured. I don't know how to stop. Then don't. Kieran's voice was soft, steady. Let it out. We're not going anywhere. Mira's breath shattered. And then she was sobbing. Not quiet, restrained tears, but deep, wrenching sobs that tore through her chest and left her gasping for air. Kai pulled her against him, his arms wrapping around her. Solid, warm. Kieran moved closer, his hand resting on her back, grounding her. And they held her. They didn't tell her to stop. Didn't tell her to be strong. Didn't tell her she was being too much. They just held her. And for the first time in 3 years, Mira let herself break. Let herself feel. Let herself be held. Because maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to carry everything alone. The sobs slowed. Her breath evened. The ache in her chest eased just slightly. Kai's hand moved to her hair, his fingers threading through the tangled strands. Better? He murmured. Mira nodded against his chest. Good. Kieran's hand traced slow circles against her back. The touch was soothing, grounding. You're safe, he said quietly. You're safe with us. Mira's throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, and for the first time, she almost did. She pulled back just enough to look at them. Her eyes were red, her cheeks were wet. She probably looked like a mess, but they didn't look away. They just watched her, patient, steady, waiting. Thank you, she whispered. Kai's expression softened. You don't have to thank us. I do. You don't. Kieran's hand moved to her cheek, his thumb brushing away the last of her tears. You don't owe us anything, he said. Mira's breath hitched. She didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to process the gentleness in their touch, the certainty in their voices, so she didn't say anything. She just leaned into Kieran's touch, letting the warmth of his hand anchor her. Kai's arm was still around her, solid, steady, and for the first time in 3 years, Mira felt like she could breathe. The fire crackled. The wind whispered through the trees outside, and the 3 of them sat there, close enough to touch, close enough to feel, close enough to hope. Stay with us, Kai said quietly. Not just tonight. Stay. Mira's chest tightened. I don't know if I can. You can, Kieran said. You just have to choose to. Mira's breath shuddered. She looked at them, at the way they watched her, at the way they held her, at the way they made her feel like she mattered. And for the first time, she wanted to stay, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Okay, she whispered. Kai's expression softened. Okay? Okay. She nodded, her voice stronger now. I'll stay. Kieran's smile was small. Real. Good. Kai's arm tightened around her, pulling her closer. And Mira let herself lean into them. Let herself feel safe. Let herself hope, even if it was dangerous. Even if it hurt. Even if it broke her. Because maybe, just maybe, they could put her back together. And maybe, just maybe, she could let them. The warmth of their arms around her felt like a promise. Mira's breath evened. Her heartbeat slowed. The ache in her chest eased, replaced by something softer, something that felt almost like peace. She closed her eyes and let herself sink into the feeling. Let herself believe just for a moment that this could be real, that they could be real, that she could have this. But the moment didn't last. A sound cut through the silence. Sharp. Sudden. A howl. Mira's eyes snapped open. Her pulse spiked. Kai and Kieran went rigid beside her. What was that? She whispered. Kai's jaw tightened. A warning. From who? Kieran was already on his feet, his gaze fixed on the door. Our pack. Mira's stomach dropped. Your pack? Her voice came out sharper than she meant. Why would they? They're looking for us, Kai said, rising to his feet. His expression was hard. Guarded. We've been gone too long. Mira's chest tightened. You didn't tell them where you were going. It wasn't a question. Kai's silence was answer enough. Mira's breath hitched. Why not? Because they wouldn't have let us come, Kieran said. His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it. They wouldn't have understood. Understood what? Kai's gaze locked onto hers. That we found you. The words settled over her like a weight. Chapter 4. Mira rose to her feet, her legs unsteady. So you just left? Without telling anyone? We had to, Kieran said. Why? Because if we'd told them, Kai said quietly, they would have tried to stop us. Mira's throat tightened. Why would they do that? Kai and Kieran exchanged a glance. Something passed between them. Silent, heavy. Because you're not from our pack, Kieran said finally. Mira's chest ached. So our pack has rules, Kai said. His jaw tightened. About who we can claim, about who we can bond with. Mira's breath caught. And I don't fit those rules. No, Kieran said. You don't. The words hit her like a blade. She took a step back, her arms wrapping around herself. So what does that mean? Her voice was barely more than a whisper. You came here knowing you couldn't keep me? No. Kai moved toward her, his expression fierce. We came here knowing we would keep you, no matter what it takes. But your pack. Our pack doesn't get to decide this, Kieran said. His voice was firm. Final. We do. Mira's chest tightened. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that they could choose her over their pack, over their rules, over everything. But she'd heard promises before. And they'd all been broken. Another howl cut through the night. Closer this time. Kai's expression darkened. We need to go. Mira's pulse spiked. Go where? Back to our territory, Kieran said. Before they come here. Why would they come here? Because they're tracking us, Kai said. And if they find you? He stopped, swallowed. Mira's stomach twisted. If they find me, what? Kai's jaw tightened. They'll try to take you. The words made her blood run cold. Take me where? Back to your old pack, Kieran said quietly. To the alpha who claimed you. Mira's breath shattered. No. She shook her head hard. No. I'm not going back there. I'm not. You won't, Kai said, his voice fierce. We won't let that happen. But if your pack finds me, they won't. Kieran interrupted. Not if we leave now. Mira's chest ached. She looked at them at the determination in their eyes, at the way they stood between her and the door like they were already preparing to fight, and she realized they meant it. They would fight for her. Even if it meant going against their own pack. Even if it meant breaking their own rules. Even if it cost them everything. The thought made her chest crack open. I can't ask you to do that, she whispered. You're not asking, Kai said. We're choosing, but your pack. Our pack will understand, Kieran said. Eventually. And if they don't? Kai's gaze held hers. Then we'll deal with it. Mira's throat tightened. She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell them they were making a mistake. That she wasn't worth it. But the words stuck in her throat. Because when she looked at them at the way they watched her, steady and sure she almost believed she was. Another howl. Louder. Closer. Kai moved toward the door, his posture tense. We need to go. Now. Kieran crossed to her, his hand reaching for hers. Come with us. Mira's pulse roared in her ears. She looked at his outstretched hand, at the certainty in his eyes, and then she looked at the door. At the darkness beyond. At the pack that was coming for them. Her wolf surged forward, desperate and aching. Go. Trust. Stay with them. But her mind screamed something else. Run. Hide. Don't let them see you. Mira's breath hitched. I can't, she whispered. Kieran's expression shifted. Mira, I can't go with you. Her voice cracked. If your pack sees me, they'll know. They'll know what you did. And they'll punish you. We don't care, Kai said. I do. Mira's hands curled into fists. I won't let you lose everything because of me. You're not making us lose anything, Kieran said. You're giving us everything. Mira's chest ached. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that she was worth the risk. But she'd been a burden before. And she wouldn't be one again. I have to go, she said. Kai's expression darkened. No, I have to. She took a step back. If I'm not here, they won't have a reason to come after you. Mira, please. Her voice broke. Just let me go. Kieran moved toward her, his hand reaching for hers. We're not letting you go. You have to. No. Kai's voice was firm. Final. We don't. Mira's breath shattered. She looked at them at the way they stood between her and the door, at the way they refused to move. And she realized they weren't going to let her leave. Not without a fight. Her chest tightened. Why? She whispered. Why won't you just let me go? Kai's gaze softened. Because we love you. The words hit her like a fist. Mira's breath caught. You don't. She stopped, swallowed. You don't even know me. We know enough, Kieran said quietly. You can't love me. We do, Kai said. We have since the moment we caught your scent. Mira's throat tightened. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell them they were wrong. That love didn't work like that. But when she looked at them, at the way they watched her, steady and sure, she couldn't, because she felt it too. That pull, that ache, that desperate, terrifying need to stay. And it scared her more than anything. Another howl. Right outside. Kai's expression hardened. They're here. Kieran moved to the window, his gaze sweeping over the trees beyond. 3 of them. Maybe 4. Mira's pulse spiked. We fight, Kai said. No. Mira shook her head. You can't fight your own pack. We will if we have to, Kieran said. You'll lose everything. We'll lose more if we lose you, Kai said. Mira's chest cracked open. She didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to process the certainty in their voices, the determination in their eyes. A knock at the door. Sharp. Deliberate. Mira's breath hitched. Kai moved in front of her, his posture tense. Kieran flanked her other side. Stay behind us, Kai said quietly. Mira's hands trembled. The door opened, and a man stepped inside. Tall, broad-shouldered. His eyes were cold, his expression hard. An alpha. Mira's stomach dropped. Kai. Kieran. His voice was low, dangerous. What the hell do you think you're doing? Kai's jaw tightened. We found her. The man's gaze swept over Mira. Cold. Assessing. So I see. His lips pressed into a thin line. And you thought you could just take her? Without telling anyone? We didn't take her, Kieran said. She chose to stay. The man's expression darkened. She's not pack. She will be, Kai said. No. The man's voice was firm. Final. She won't. Mira's chest tightened. Why not? Kai's voice was sharp, challenging. The man's gaze locked onto his. Because she's already claimed. The words made Mira's blood run cold. No, she whispered. The man's gaze shifted to her. Your old alpha contacted us. He's looking for you, and he's willing to go to war to get you back. Mira's breath shattered. No. She shook her head hard. No. I'm not going back to him. You don't have a choice, the man said. Yes, she does, Kai said, his voice fierce. No. The man's expression was hard, unyielding. She doesn't, and neither do you. Kieran stepped forward. We're not giving her up. Then you're choosing her over your pack, the man said. Silence stretched. Heavy. Suffocating. Then Kai spoke, his voice steady and sure. Yes, we are. The man's expression darkened, and Mira's world shattered. Chapter 5. The air in the cabin turned to ice. Mira's pulse roared in her ears. Her breath came in short, shallow gasps. The walls felt like they were closing in, the space too small, too tight, too suffocating. Yes, we are. Kai's words echoed in her chest, louder than her heartbeat. The man's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, something cold and final. Then you're exiled, he said. The word hit like a blade. Mira's stomach dropped. No. The word tore from her throat before she could stop it. No, you can't. I can, the man said, his gaze shifting to her. And I will. They chose you over their pack. That's treason. It's not treason, Kieran said, his voice low and dangerous. It's loyalty. To an outsider, the man shot back. To an Omega who doesn't belong here. Mira's chest tightened. Doesn't belong. The words cut deeper than they should have. Because he was right. She didn't belong here. Didn't belong anywhere. She was just an Omega who ran. Who broke pack law. Who brought nothing but trouble to everyone she touched. She belongs with us, Kai said, his voice fierce. That's all that matters. The man's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. No, Kieran said. We're making a choice. The man's gaze swept over them. Cold. Assessing. Then he turned toward the door. You have until dawn, he said. After that, if you're still on pack land, you'll be hunted. Mira's breath hitched. Hunted. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. The man paused in the doorway. He didn't look back. "You're not pack anymore," he said. "Which means you're prey." Then he was gone. The door swung shut behind him. Silence crashed over the cabin like a wave. Mira's legs gave out. She sank onto the cot, her hands trembling, her chest heaving. Exiled. Hunted. Because of me. Kai moved toward her, his expression tight. "Mira." "No." She shook her head hard. "No, you can't do this. You can't give up everything for me." "We already did," Kieran said quietly. "Then take it back." Her voice cracked. "Go after him. Tell him you changed your mind. Tell him, we're not changing our minds," Kai said. "You have to." "We won't." Mira's breath shattered. She looked at them, at the determination in their eyes, at the way they stood between her and the door like they were already preparing to fight the world. And she realized they meant it. They would give up everything for her. Their pack, their home, their family, everything. The thought made her chest crack open. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Kai crouched in front of her, his gaze steady and sure. "Because you're worth it." "I'm not." "Yes, you are. You don't know that." "We do," Kieran said, settling beside her. "We've known since the moment we found you." Mira's throat tightened. She wanted to believe them, wanted to believe that she was worth the sacrifice, but she'd been a burden before, and she wouldn't be one again. "I have to leave," she said. Kai's expression darkened. "No, I have to." She rose to her feet, her legs unsteady. "If I'm not here, they won't exile you. They won't hunt you. You can go back. You can—" "We're not going back," Kieran said, his voice firm. "You have to. We won't." Mira's hands curled into fists. "Why are you being so stubborn?" "Because we love you," Kai said. The words hit her like a fist. Again, Mira's breath caught. "You keep saying that," she whispered. "But you don't mean it." "Yes, we do. You can't." Her voice broke. "You can't love me. You don't even know me." Kai rose to his feet, his gaze locking onto hers. "We know you ran because you refused to be claimed by someone you didn't choose," he said. "We know you've been surviving alone for 3 years with no food, no heat, no pack. We know you're terrified of being hurt again, and we know—" He stopped, swallowed. "We know you're the strongest person we've ever met," he said quietly. Mira's chest ached. "I'm not strong," she whispered. "I'm broken." "You're not broken," Kieran said, moving closer. "You're healing. And we want to be here while you do." Mira's throat tightened. She wanted to believe them, wanted to believe that she could heal, that she could be whole again, but the scars ran too deep. "What if I can't?" she whispered. "What if I'm too damaged?" Kai's expression softened. He reached up, slow and careful, and cupped her face in his hands. His touch was gentle, reverent. "Then we'll love you anyway," he said. Mira's breath shattered. The words broke something inside her, something she'd been holding on to for too long. The belief that she wasn't enough, that she was too broken, that no one would ever want her. But when she looked at them, at the way Kai's hands cradled her face, at the way Kieran's gaze held hers, she almost believed she was wrong. Almost. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "You don't have to know," Kieran said. "Just let us show you." Mira's chest ached. She wanted to say yes. Wanted to let them in. Wanted to believe that this, whatever this was, could be real. But the fear was too strong. The scars too deep. "What if I hurt you?" she whispered. Kai's thumb brushed across her cheek. "You won't. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." His gaze was steady. "Sure. Because you're not capable of it." Mira's throat tightened. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, but the words stuck in her throat. Because when she looked at him, at the certainty in his eyes, at the gentleness in his touch, she almost believed him. Almost. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Kieran's hand found hers, his fingers curling around hers. "We leave." "And go where?" "Anywhere," Kai said. "As long as we're together." Mira's breath hitched. "You'd really do that? Leave everything behind?" "We already did," Kieran said quietly. Mira's chest cracked open. She looked at them, at the way they watched her, at the way they held her, at the way they made her feel like she mattered. And for the first time, She wanted to believe it. Wanted to believe that she was worth the sacrifice. That she was worth the risk. That she was worth them. Okay, she whispered. Kai's expression softened. Okay, okay. She nodded, her voice stronger now. I'll go with you. Kieran's smile was small, real. Good. Kai's hand slipped from her face, but he didn't step back. He stayed close, his presence solid and grounding. We need to move, he said. Before dawn, Mira nodded. She crossed to her bag, still sitting by the door where she'd dropped it. She picked it up, slinging it over her shoulder. It felt lighter now, or maybe she did. Kieran moved to the door, his gaze sweeping over the trees beyond. They'll be watching. We'll have to be careful. How careful? Mira asked. Very, Kai said. If they catch us before we're off Packland, they'll kill us. Mira's stomach twisted. All of us? Kai's gaze held hers. All of us. The weight of those words settled over her like a stone, but she didn't pull away. Didn't run, because for the first time, she wasn't alone. Kieran opened the door. The cold night air rushed in. The trees beyond were dark, their branches swaying in the wind. Stay close, he said. Mira nodded. Kai's hand found hers, his fingers curling around hers. Warm, steady. We'll get through this, he said quietly. Mira's throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, and for the first time, she almost did. They stepped into the night. The wind bit at her skin. The trees loomed overhead, their shadows long and dark, but Kai's hand was warm in hers. Kieran's presence was solid beside her, and for the first time in 3 years, Mira didn't feel like she was running. She felt like she was moving toward something, toward a future, toward a home, toward them, even if it was dangerous, even if it hurt, even if it broke her. Because maybe, just maybe, they could put her back together, and maybe, just maybe, she could let them. Chapter 6. The forest swallowed them whole. Mira moved between Kai and Kieran, her breath coming in short, sharp bursts. The trees pressed in on all sides, their branches clawing at the sky. The wind carried the scent of pine and earth and something else. Something wild. Something hunting. Kai's hand tightened around hers. Faster. Mira's legs burned. Her lungs ached. But she pushed forward, her feet pounding against the frozen ground. Behind them, she heard it. A howl. Long, low, deliberate. Her stomach dropped. They're following us, she gasped. I know, Kieran said, his voice tight. How many? Too many. Mira's pulse spiked. They moved faster, weaving through the trees, their breath misting in the cold air. The forest was a maze of shadows and silence. Every sound amplified, every movement a threat. Another howl. Closer. Kai pulled her to the left, toward a cluster of rocks. Here. They ducked behind the stones, pressing their backs against the cold surface. Mira's chest heaved, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Kieran crouched beside her, his gaze fixed on the trees beyond. They're circling. How long do we have? Mira whispered. Minutes, Kai said. Maybe less. Mira's throat tightened. She looked at them at the way their bodies were tense, coiled, ready to fight. Ready to die. For her. You should go, she whispered. Kai's gaze snapped to hers. What? You should go. Her voice cracked. Leave me here. Go back to your pack. Tell them I forced you. Tell them, no, Kieran said, his voice firm. You'll die if you stay. Then we die, Kai said. Mira's breath shattered. You can't mean that. We do, Kieran said, his gaze locking onto hers. But, no. Kai's hand cupped her face, his touch gentle despite the tension in his body. We made our choice, and we're not changing it. Mira's chest ached. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell them they were being stupid, reckless, insane, but when she looked at them, at the determination in their eyes, at the way they held her, she couldn't. Because they meant it. They would die for her. And that terrified her more than anything. A sound cut through the silence. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. Mira's pulse roared in her ears. Kai and Kieran moved in front of her, their bodies forming a wall between her and the threat. A figure stepped into view, tall, broad, his eyes glowing in the darkness. The man from the cabin, but he wasn't alone. 3 others flanked him, their expressions hard, their postures tense. Alphas. All of them. Mira's stomach twisted. Last chance, the man said, his voice low and dangerous. Come back. Leave the Omega. And we'll forget this ever happened. Kai's jaw tightened. No. The man's expression darkened. Then you're dead. So be it, Kieran said. The man's gaze shifted to Mira. Cold. Assessing. You're not worth this, he said. The words hit her like a blade. Not worth this. Mira's chest tightened. Because he was right. She wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth their sacrifice. Wasn't worth their lives. She was just an Omega who ran. Who broke pack law. Who brought nothing but trouble. But when she looked at Kai and Kieran, at the way they stood between her and the threat, at the way they refused to move, she realized something. They didn't see her that way. They saw her as worth everything. And maybe, just maybe, she could start seeing herself that way too. She's worth more than you'll ever understand, Kai said, his voice fierce. The man's expression hardened. Then you'll die for her. He moved. Fast. Too fast. Kai met him head on, their bodies colliding with a force that shook the ground. Kieran lunged at another alpha, his movements sharp and precise. Mira stumbled back, her breath catching in her throat. The fight was brutal, vicious. Blood and snarls and the crack of bone against bone. Kai fought like a demon, his movements fluid and deadly. But the man was stronger. Faster. And he was winning. Mira's chest tightened. She couldn't just stand here. Couldn't just watch them die. Not for her. Not because of her. Her wolf surged forward. Desperate and aching. Fight. Protect. Save them. Mira's hands curled into fists. She didn't know what she was doing. Didn't know if it would work. But she had to try. She stepped forward, her voice ripping from her throat. Stop. The word echoed through the forest. Everyone froze. The man's gaze snapped to hers. Cold. Sharp. What did you say? Mira's breath hitched, but she didn't back down. I said stop. Her voice was stronger now. Steadier. You want me? Fine. Take me. But let them go. No. Kai snarled, blood dripping from his lip. Mira, don't. Let them go, she repeated, her gaze locked on the man. And I'll come with you. I'll go back to my old pack. I'll do whatever you want. Just let them live. The man's expression shifted. Something flickered in his eyes. Interest. You'd give yourself up? He said. For them? Mira's throat tightened. Yes. Kai's expression twisted. Mira, no. It's the only way, she said, her voice breaking. It's not, Kieran said, his voice raw. We'll find another way. There is no other way. Mira's chest ached. This is the only way you survive. The man stepped closer, his gaze sweeping over her. Interesting, he murmured. An Omega willing to sacrifice herself. That's rare. Mira's hands trembled, but she didn't move, didn't run. The man's lips curved into a cold smile. All right, he said. I accept. No! Kai roared, lunging forward, but the man was faster. He grabbed Mira's arm, his grip like iron, and pulled her toward him. Mira's breath caught. Kai and Kieran moved. But the other alphas blocked them, their bodies forming a wall. Let her go, Kai snarled. She made her choice, the man said. Mira's chest tightened. She looked at Kai and Kieran, at the fury in their eyes, at the way they fought against the alphas holding them back, at the way they looked at her like she was everything. I'm sorry, she whispered. Kai's expression shattered. Mira! But the man was already pulling her away, dragging her toward the trees. Mira's legs moved on instinct, her body numb, her mind screaming, This is wrong. This is wrong. This is... A sound cut through the chaos. A growl. Low. Dangerous. Familiar. Mira's breath caught. The man froze. And then a wolf stepped into the clearing. Massive. Black as night. Eyes glowing gold. Mira's stomach dropped. She knew that wolf. Knew that scent. Knew that presence. Her old alpha. He'd found her. Chapter 7. The black wolf's gaze locked onto Mira. And she saw it. The hunger. The possession. The certainty. He'd come for her. And he wasn't leaving without her. Kai's voice ripped through the silence, raw and desperate. Mira! But she couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Because the black wolf was moving toward her. Slow, deliberate, inevitable, and behind him, more wolves. Dozens of them, her old pack. Mira's chest cracked open. She looked at Kai and Kieran, at the way they fought against the alphas holding them, at the way they screamed her name, at the way they loved her, and she realized this was it. This was the end. The black wolf stopped in front of her. His massive form towered over her. He shifted, bones cracking, skin stretching, and then he was standing there, human, naked, his eyes cold and possessive. "Hello, Mira," he said softly. Mira's breath shattered. "No," she whispered. He reached for her, his hand closing around her throat. "Not hard. Not yet. Just there. A promise. A threat." "You're mine," he said. "You've always been mine." Mira's pulse roared in her ears. She looked past him, at Kai and Kieran, at the way they fought, at the way they bled, at the way they refused to give up, and she made a choice. She looked the black wolf in the eye, and she smiled. "No," she said. "I'm not." His expression darkened. "What did you say?" Mira's wolf surged forward. "Wild, fierce, free," I said. She shifted. Fast, brutal. Her bones cracked, her skin stretched, her body exploded into fur and claws and teeth, and she lunged straight for his throat. The clearing erupted into chaos. Mira's jaws closed around flesh, not his throat. He was too fast, but his shoulder. Blood flooded her mouth. Hot, metallic, real. He roared, stumbling back. His eyes flashed with something she'd never seen before. Fear. She'd spent 3 years running from him. 3 years being prey. Not anymore. Mira released him and circled, her wolf form larger than it should be. Stronger. Something had changed. Something deep inside her had finally broken free. The black wolf Victor shifted fully now. Massive and scarred and terrifying. But Mira didn't feel terror anymore. She felt rage. Around them, the two packs collided. Kai and Kieran had broken free, their wolves tearing through the alphas who'd held them. The Nightfall wolves who'd come to bring them back were now fighting beside them, confused loyalties fragmenting in the chaos. But Mira only had eyes for Victor. He lunged. She dodged, using her smaller size as advantage. His claws raked air where she'd been a heartbeat before. She twisted, went low, tore at his hindquarters. He spun faster than something his size should move, caught her across the ribs. Pain exploded through her chest. She flew backward, hit a tree, felt something crack. "Get up. Get up. Get up." Victor approached slowly now, confident. The fear gone from his eyes, replaced with cold satisfaction. "You can't win this, little Luna," he said, his voice reaching her mind through the pack link he'd tried to force on her years ago. "You're strong. I'll give you that. But you're not strong enough." Mira struggled to her feet. Her ribs screamed. Blood matted her fur. Kai's howl cut through the night, anguished, furious. She could feel him trying to reach her, but Victor's wolves had formed a circle, keeping everyone else out. This was between her and him, always had been. "I don't need to be stronger than you," Mira said, her voice clear in the mental space between them. "I just need to be free of you." She gathered herself. Every muscle, every ounce of will, and then she felt it. A burning on her shoulder where Luna's mark lived. Not painful. Not like before. Power. Ancient. Primal. Hers. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Luna's daughters don't submit. They choose. And when they choose, heaven and earth move for them. Mira had been running from her power as much as she'd been running from Victor. Afraid of what it meant. Afraid of what it would cost. But standing here, with Kai and Kieran fighting for her, with Victor's blood on her tongue, with freedom finally within reach, she chose. The mark on her shoulder blazed. Silver light erupted from her fur, so bright the wolves around her stumbled back, blinded. Victor's eyes widened. "No, you couldn't access." Mira didn't let him finish. She moved like lightning, like starlight, like every Luna daughter who'd come before her. Not just wolf now. Something more. Something ancient. Her jaws found his throat this time, and she held on. Victor thrashed, powerful and desperate. But the light was burning him, burning through the forced bond he'd tried to create, burning away 3 years of hunting and terror and possession. "You are not mine." Mira's voice crashed through his mind like thunder. The bond he'd tried to forge, the one that had never quite taken because Luna's blood rejected force, it shattered. She felt it break like glass between them. Victor went limp. Mira released him. He collapsed to the ground, breathing but broken. The fight drained out of him, along with the bond. The silver light faded from her fur. Mira stood there, panting, bleeding, victorious. The clearing had gone silent. Every wolf nightfall pack, Victor's pack, rogues drawn by the fight, they all stared at her. At the Omega who just brought down one of the most feared alphas in 3 territories. At Luna's heir, fully awakened. Mira shifted back to human form. Naked and bloody and trembling, but standing. Kai and Kieran were already moving toward her, shifting as they ran. They reached her in seconds, catching her as her legs finally gave out. "Mira," Kai breathed, his hands gentle despite the desperation in his voice. "Are you?" "I'm okay," she whispered. A slow clap cut through the silence. The man from Kai and Kieran's pack, the one who'd exiled them, stepped forward. But he wasn't alone. 5 other wolves followed him. Ancient, powerful, their eyes glowing with an authority that made even Victor's dominance look like a candle next to the sun. "The Council of 7, Kieran breathed. Mira's stomach dropped. The lead wolf, an elder female with silver-gray fur, shifted to human form. Aged but strong, her eyes sharp and knowing. "Mira Castello," she said, her voice carrying across the clearing. "Victor Russo, Kai and Kieran Blackwood." She looked at each of them in turn. "You are all summoned before the Council of 7. Victor struggled to sit up, his hand pressed to his bleeding throat. "On what charges?" The elder's expression remained neutral. "Murder, treason, unlawful claiming, and the forbidden use of Luna's magic." Mira's blood ran cold. "Forbidden?" "Luna's bloodline was declared extinct," the elder said, her gaze fixing on Mira. "Any claiming otherwise is punishable by death." The words hit like a physical blow. Kai stepped forward, positioning himself between Mira and the elder. "The council has no authority over mate bonds. We have authority over everything," the elder said, "especially when it concerns power that could destabilize every pack in existence." Kieran's hands tightened on Mira's shoulders. "She's done nothing wrong. She exists," the elder said simply. "And that, unfortunately, is enough." Mira's mind reeled. She'd just fought for her freedom, just broken the bond that had haunted her for 3 years, just chosen herself, chosen Kai and Kieran, chosen life. And now the council was saying she had to die anyway? "No," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "No, I won't." "You have no choice," the elder interrupted. "None of you do. You will come before the 7. You will answer for your actions, and judgment will be rendered." She turned to Victor, who was still on the ground. "You especially have much to answer for." Victor's eyes narrowed. "I was following orders." The clearing went silent. Mira's breath caught. "What?" The elder's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "We will discuss this before the council," she said. "Not here." But Victor was laughing now, low and bitter and broken. "Tell her," he said, looking at the elder. "Tell her the truth. Tell her why her pack really died." Kai's grip on Mira tightened. The elder's jaw clenched. "This is not the time." "The council ordered the massacre," Victor said, his voice growing stronger. "The Council of 7 decided Luna's bloodline was too dangerous to exist. I was just the weapon they used." Mira couldn't breathe. The council, the highest authority in the wolf world. They'd ordered her family's death? Is that true? Kieran's voice was deadly quiet. The elder's silence was answer enough. "Luna's power disrupts the balance," she said finally. "We made the decision we thought necessary. Victor was meant to eliminate the bloodline quietly. He exceeded his orders." "Exceeded?" Mira's voice cracked. "He murdered 175 wolves. He hunted me for 3 years. And you're saying that was him exceeding orders?" "We ordered containment," the elder said. "Not a massacre, not a 3-year hunt." Victor went rogue. "But you still wanted me dead," Mira whispered. The elder met her gaze steadily. "Yes," the word hung in the air like a blade. Kai's whole body was shaking with barely contained fury. "The council will answer for this." "The council answers to no one," the elder said. "That's what makes us the council." "Then the council is broken," Kieran said. The elder's expression hardened. Be careful, Blackwood. You're already exiled. Don't make your situation worse. Worse than being hunted on our own territory? Kai's voice was sharp. Worse than being told our mate has to die for the crime of existing? Your mate, the elder said slowly, is an abomination in the eyes of pack law. Mira flinched, but Kai stepped forward, his eyes blazing. Then, pack law is wrong. The elder stared at him for a long moment. Then, you will all come before the 7, 3 days, the council chamber. If you refuse or run, every pack in existence will hunt you. She turned to leave, the other council members following, but Victor's voice stopped them. There's something else you should know, he said, still on the ground but smiling now. A terrible knowing smile. Something the council has been keeping from everyone. The elder went very still. Don't, she said quietly. Why not? Victor laughed. I'm already dead. Might as well take you down with me. He looked at Mira, at Kai, and Kieran, at all the wolves watching. The reason the council wanted Luna's bloodline dead? He said. The reason they're so afraid of her power? It's not about balance. It's not about stability. He pulled himself to his feet, swaying but standing. It's because something's coming. Something that requires Luna's magic to stop. And the council would rather let it destroy us all than admit they need her. The elder's face had gone white. What's coming? Kai demanded. Victor's smile widened. Ask them. Then he collapsed. The clearing erupted into chaos. Wolves from all 3 packs talking, shouting, demanding answers. But the elder and her council members were already gone, vanished into the forest. Mira stood there, Kai and Kieran supporting her, and tried to process what had just happened. She'd defeated Victor. But the council wanted her dead. The council had ordered her family's massacre. And something was coming, something that needed her power to stop. Her legs finally gave out completely. Kai caught her. I've got you. We've got you, Kieran corrected, supporting her other side. Mira looked up at them. At these 2 alphas who'd given up everything for her, who'd been exiled from their pack. Who would face the council in 3 days? I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Don't, Kai said fiercely. Don't apologize for existing. Don't apologize for being who you are. But the council can go to hell, Kieran said. We'll face them. Together. Mira's eyes burned. They'll kill us. Maybe, Kai said. But we're not going down without a fight. Around them, the wolves were dispersing. Victor's pack carrying him away. The nightfall wolves uncertain. Some looking at Kai and Kieran with something like respect. Others with horror. They were alone now. The 3 of them. Exiled. Hunted. Facing the council's judgment in 3 days. But Mira didn't feel defeated. She felt awake. For 3 years, she'd been running. From Victor. From her power. From herself. Not anymore. She looked at Kai and Kieran. If we're doing this, she said, if we're facing the council, we do it on our terms. Kai's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile but was close. What did you have in mind? Mira's Luna mark burned warm against her skin. Not warning this time. Promise. We find out what's coming, she said. We find out what the council is so afraid of. And we make them tell the truth. Kieran's eyes gleamed. You want to take on the Council of 7. I want to expose them, Mira said. For ordering genocide. For lying about the threat. For everything. They're the most powerful wolves alive, Kai said. They've ruled for centuries. Then it's time for a change, Mira said. She straightened, finding her strength. The pain in her ribs was already fading. Luna's power healing her. 3 days, she said. We have 3 days to find the truth. To gather allies. To prepare. And then? Kieran asked. Mira's smile was sharp, fierce, free. Then we burn their world down. Chapter 8. 3 days passed in a blur of movement and revelation. Kai and Kieran took Mira to a safe house, an abandoned den on neutral ground where no pack could reach them. There, they planned, strategized, and Mira learned to control the power that had awakened inside her. Luna's magic was wild, unpredictable. It surged when her emotions ran high, especially when Kai and Kieran were near. The mate bond amplified it, made it unstable. The council was right about one thing, Mira said on the second night, watching silver light dance across her fingertips. This power is dangerous. Only if you lose control, Kai said. He sat beside her, close but not touching. And you won't. How do you know? Because you've spent 3 years in control, Kieran said from the doorway. Control of your fear, your pain, your survival. This is just another thing to master. But it wasn't that simple. On the morning of the 3rd day, as they prepared to face the council, Mira felt the mate bond pulling at her, demanding completion. The longer she stayed near Kai and Kieran without completing the bond, the more unstable her power became. There's something you need to know, she said as they walked toward the council chamber. About what happens if we complete the bond. Kai and Kieran stopped. Victor told me, Mira continued, her voice tight. Luna's power transfers to the bonded mates. If we complete this bond, I'll lose everything. The magic will go to you. Silence. Then Kai said, we won't complete it. But the instability. We'll find another way, Kieran said firmly. We're not taking your power. That's not why we want you. Mira's chest ached. Even if it means the magic could kill me? Even then, Kai said, you choose. Always. Chapter 9. The council chamber was carved into the heart of an ancient mountain. 7 stone thrones arranged in a semicircle. 6 were occupied. The elder who'd confronted them in the forest sat in the center. The other council members watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to cold disdain. 1 throne stood empty. Victor Russo was meant to sit there, the elder said, following Mira's gaze. But his crimes have disqualified him. We're here to determine if you 3 will join him in disgrace. Or death, another council member added. A male with scars crossing his face. Mira stood between Kai and Kieran, their presence grounding her. Behind them, witnesses filled the chamber. Wolves from dozens of packs, drawn by rumors of Luna's heir. Let's be clear about what we're really discussing, Kai said, his voice carrying through the stone chamber. You ordered the massacre of the Nightfall Pack. You tried to exterminate Luna's bloodline. And now you want to punish us for discovering your crime. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The elder's expression didn't change. The council acts for the greater good. Luna's power is too unstable. Is that why you've been hiding the truth? Mira interrupted. Her Luna mark was burning now, visible even through her shirt. Victor said something was coming. Something that needs my power to stop. What is it? The council members exchanged glances. That information is classified, the scarred male said. Then declassify it, Kieran challenged. Because every wolf in this chamber deserves to know what threat is so great that you'd commit genocide to hide it. The elder's jaw tightened. You overstep. No, a new voice said. Everyone turned. An ancient female wolf stepped from the shadows. Even older than the elder. Her eyes milky with age but sharp with knowledge. The Blackwood twins are right, she said. The time for secrets is over. The elder stood. Grandmother, you shouldn't. Sit down, child. The Ancient One's voice cracked like a whip. The elder sat. The ancient wolf, clearly the true power behind the council, moved to the center of the chamber. 1,000 years ago, she said, Luna didn't die of natural causes. She was killed. By something we call the Shadow Court. Mira's blood ran cold. They're the opposite of what Luna represented. Where she brought life and light and choice, they bring death and darkness and slavery. We thought we'd defeated them. But they're returning. How do you know? Someone in the crowd called. Because they've been taking wolves, the Ancient One said. Dozens over the past decade, draining them, using their power to break through the barriers Luna erected before she died. And you said nothing? Kai's voice was lethal. We hoped we could stop them without revealing Luna's bloodline existed, the Ancient One said. We were wrong. The Shadow Court knows. They've been hunting Luna's descendants for centuries. That's why we ordered the bloodline hidden. Protected. Protected? Mira's voice shook with rage. You call massacre protection? The council member who gave that order exceeded his authority, the Ancient One said, looking at the empty throne. Victor was meant to relocate your pack, not destroy it. When we learned what he'd done, it was too late. So you let him continue hunting me, Mira said. For 3 years. We thought if he caught you, we could intervene, take you into protective custody. The Ancient One's gaze was steady. We were fools. Victor wanted your power for himself, and now the Shadow Court knows you're alive. The temperature in the chamber dropped. They're here, Kieran breathed, his instincts screaming danger. The Ancient One nodded. They've been watching since you awakened your power. And now, the chamber doors exploded inward. Chapter 10. They poured through like smoke given form. Wolves, but wrong. Their eyes glowed red instead of gold. Their fur was black as void. And they moved with a wrongness that made Mira's stomach turn. Shadow Court. The council members shifted immediately, forming a defensive line. But even Mira could see they were outmatched. There's too many, Kai said, pulling her back. The Ancient One's voice rang out. Protect Luna's heir. Chaos erupted. The shadow wolves moved like liquid death, tearing through defenders. They weren't trying to kill everyone. They were coming for Mira. Kai and Kieran shifted, massive and deadly, flanking her. But a shadow wolf broke through, lunged straight for Mira's throat. Her Luna mark blazed. Silver light erupted, catching the shadow wolf mid-air. It screamed a sound no living thing should make, and dissolved into smoke. The other shadow wolves hesitated. Mira's power surged, wild and bright. She understood now. This was what Luna's magic was for. Not just life and choice and freedom, but protection against the darkness. Mira! Kieran's voice. Warning. She was burning too bright. The power was consuming her, feeding on itself. Without the bond to ground her, without control, she'd burn out, die taking the shadow court with her. The thought didn't scare her. She'd spent 3 years running. 3 years afraid. 3 years letting others fight her battles. Not anymore. Get back, she told Kai and Kieran. No, Kai said. Mira, you can't. Kieran started. I choose this, Mira said, meeting their eyes. I finally choose. She chose power. She chose purpose. She chose to be Luna's heir, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The silver light exploded outward. Every shadow wolf in the chamber dissolved. The darkness fled, and for one perfect moment, Mira held the full force of Luna's magic. Then her legs gave out. Kai caught her. No. I'm okay, she gasped. But she wasn't. The power had burned through her reserves. She could feel herself fading. Complete the bond, the Ancient One said urgently. It's the only way to stabilize her. But she'll lose her power, Kieran said. She'll lose her life if you don't, the Ancient One countered. The bond will ground her. Let her access the power without it consuming her. Mira looked up at Kai and Kieran. At these two alphas who'd given up everything for her. Your choice, Kai said, his voice breaking. Always your choice. Mira smiled. Weak but real. Then I choose you, both of you. Bond me. The Ancient One was already chanting. The old words. The binding ritual. Kai's teeth found her shoulder. Right over Luna's mark. Then Kieran's. The same spot. Twin bonds. Ancient and new. Power and choice woven together. The silver light shifted. Not fading. Changing. Instead of burning wild, it settled into her bones. Strengthened by the mate bond. Controlled but not diminished. Mira gasped as the bond clicked into place. She could feel them now. Kai's fierce protection. Kieran's steady strength. Their love wrapping around her like armor. Impossible, the Ancient One breathed. The power didn't transfer. It balanced. Mira struggled to her feet, supported by her mates. She felt different, stronger. The Luna magic was still hers. But now she had anchors. Kai and Kieran grounding her, giving her stability without taking her power. Because they don't want to own me, Mira said, understanding flooding through her. They want me to be free. That's the difference. The Ancient One smiled. Actually smiled. Luna would be proud. But the moment of peace shattered. A howl echoed through the mountain. Not wolf. Not shadow court. Something else. Something worse. The Ancient One's expression went grim. The Shadow King. I'd hoped we had more time. Time for what? Kai demanded. To prepare her. To train her. No more waiting, Mira interrupted. Her mate stood beside her, the bond singing between them. Her power burned steady and true. Whatever's coming, we face it. Together. The Ancient One studied her for a long moment, then nodded. The Shadow King has been imprisoned for 1,000 years, she said. But Luna's death weakened the seal. And now, with you awakened, he'll come for you. He'll want to corrupt Luna's power, turn it to darkness. When? Kieran asked. The howl came again. Closer. The The Ancient One's expression answered everything. Now. He's coming now. Mira looked at Kai and Kieran. At the council. At all the wolves who'd gathered to witness her judgment. Then we fight, she said. Not just for me. For everyone. For every wolf the Shadow Court has taken. For every pack living in fear. She raised her hand, silver light dancing across her fingers. Controlled. Now. Purposeful. I am Luna's last daughter. They wanted me dead. They wanted me broken. They wanted me silenced. Her power flared, bright as starlight. They're about to learn what happens when you corner someone with nothing left to lose. The chamber doors blew open again, and something massive and terrible stepped through the threshold. The Shadow King had arrived. But Mira wasn't the frightened Omega who'd been running anymore. She was Luna's heir, fully awakened. She had 2 alphas who'd burn the world for her. She had power that could challenge darkness itself, and she was done being afraid. She smiled, sharp, fierce, free. Come on then, she said to the darkness. Let's finish this. The Shadow King roared. Mira's power exploded outward, silver meeting shadow, and the real war began. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. Seriously, you guys are the best pack a storyteller could ask for. I have to know, what would you do if you found out you had a forbidden power that could save or destroy the world? Would you run like Mira did at first, or stand and fight? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of rejected mates, twin alphas, and epic battles, please give this video a massive thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new legend. We have some dark secrets coming in the next story that you definitely don't want to miss. Until next time.